Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Georgia Cannabis CPA Desiree Anderson. Now what I do on this channel is I look for stories in the headlines. I look for laws that have come down from our judicial system. I look for laws that have come down from Congress. And I also look for laws that have come down from the states. And I take that information and I let you know how that information is going to affect you as a cannabis business owner, how it affects you from a tax and from an accounting perspective. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hello everyone and welcome back. So today I'm going to be talking about a case that occurred in Oklahoma City. So this is a case about two things. It's a case about money laundering and also a case about structuring. And we'll get into what both of those mean and how this particular person named Victor Ungo was charged by the U.S. Attorney General, or rather the acting U.S. Attorney, Robert J. Troster, for money laundering and also for structuring. Okay, so let's start with the fact that marijuana, or cannabis, I should say, is illegal on a federal level. So because marijuana is illegal on a federal level, banks will not bank cannabis businesses. So and because marijuana or because cannabis is legal in some states, if you are looking for a bank to bank with, then more than likely you have to look within your state. So you have state banks that are willing to take on marijuana or cannabis businesses. But on a federal level, you cannot bank with a federal bank like a Bank of America or like a Chase. Okay. Now, so let me first of all read the first paragraph so you have an idea of exactly what I'll be talking about. So, all right, so this happened on, this particular report was released on Tuesday, August 17th, 2021. So it's actually less than a year old. So Victor Ungo, who is 33 years old, of Oklahoma City, and Friendly Management Group LLC. Now, Friendly Management Group LLC is the name of his business. Okay, so both of them, both the business and Victor, pleaded guilty in connection with a scheme to open a bank account under false pretenses to launder proceeds from marijuana sales. And this was announced by the acting U.S. Attorney. Okay, so the reason why this is a problem is that because marijuana or because cannabis is illegal on a federal level, you are not allowed to open up a federal bank account or a bank account to run your money through. So this person, Victor, he got the smart idea that what he was going to do was he was going to open up a business and lie about what type of business it was that he was running. And I think somewhere down here it says that he said that the business was some sort of, I think he said it was some sort of fitness business, if I'm not mistaken. Here it is. He said that he falsely stated that his business was a wellness and fitness company, when in fact it engaged in marijuana-related businesses, okay, or rather a marijuana-related business. So he lied about the purpose of his business, and that is how he was able to open a bank account. All right, so in doing so, of course, he was running the money from his marijuana sales through his business. And of course, the bank didn't know that it was a marijuana or rather a cannabis business. Now, this is illegal. Okay, this is illegal. And this is what he pled guilty for. And this is what he was charged for. So because he did this, he was charged for money laundering. Now, money laundering, as we all know, is where you take money that was derived from the sale of something illegal like drugs, and you run it through a business to try to clean the money to make it appear as if the money came from that particular business. So that is what he did. That is fraud, and that is money laundering. Okay. Now, the second thing that this guy did was he was involved in something called structuring. And of course, he also pled guilty to this. So what is structuring? So structuring is where you lie to the bank and tell, okay, so let me take a step back. All right, let me pull this over here so I can read this to you. So this is part of a form called Form 8300, right? Now, what is the purpose of Form 8300? Form 8300 is a form that needs to be filled out if you receive cash during a business transaction for over $10,000. So let's read what's highlighted. So it says, each person engaged in a trade or business who in the course of that trade or business receives more than $10,000 in cash in one transaction or in two or more related transactions must fill out a Form 8300, right? So what is considered two or more related transactions? So when is it determined that, okay, these transactions are related, and therefore, if you receive this money within this time period, you are required to fill out Form 8300. So any transactions conducted between a payer and the recipient in a 24-hour period, that is considered a related transaction. So for example, let's say I sold somebody a pound of cannabis or whatever it is that I'm selling. Or not even just cannabis, in any industry. So this is required for any industry if you receive more than $10,000 at one time. So when you say related payments within a 24-hour period, what that means is if somebody came in and purchased something from you, right, and that particular item cost $20,000, and they decided that, oh, you know what, we only have $5,000, so we're going to give you $5,000 today and come back tomorrow with the remaining $15,000. Well, that's considered a related transaction. Therefore, you are required to report that on Form 8300. Well, he was doing something that's called structuring. So let's read about that really quickly so that way you can understand what that means. All right, so what that means is, let's see if I can find it. Okay, so the information further alleges that Ngo made cash deposits on nearly a daily basis. So he was depositing cash in the bank on a daily basis, okay? But he was also breaking up or structuring the transactions to amounts below $10,000 to avoid triggering the bank's transaction reporting obligation under federal law. So basically, if you deposit more than $10,000 in the bank, you're required to fill out the Form 8300, and in addition to that, the bank is required to report that you have deposited over $10,000. And the purpose of this is to try to avoid money laundering, also try to avoid sales, sales of arms, sale of arms. This is different types of transactions that could be suspicious in the eyes of the law. Okay, so what he was doing was he was taking his money and he was breaking it up. That way, he would not have to deposit an entire $10,000 at one time. So let's give an example here. Let's say he collects $30,000 in a day in cash, right? And he decides, oh, okay, I don't want to have to fill out this Form 8300. So let me break this up, and I'll go today, Monday, I'll go deposit $9,000. On Wednesday, I'll go deposit $8,000, and then on Friday I'll go deposit $7,000, and so on and so forth. You get where I'm going with this, right? So he would take that, let's just say $30,000, and break it up into lesser amounts of 10,000 and go and deposit them on a daily basis. This way he was not having to fill out Form 8300. That is illegal as well. So he was actually He was found guilty, or he pled guilty to both of those charges, so money laundering and also for structuring. So what is the moral to the story for cannabis businesses? The moral to the story is what you do not want to do is try to trick banks. Don't try to trick the system like what this guy did. So don't open up a business and lie about the purpose of the business and then run your cannabis funds through that business. Because as you can see, that can get you in trouble. And that is what got this guy in trouble. Second of all, you always want to make sure that if you are collecting cash and you're collecting more than $10,000, okay, during a transaction, you want to make sure that you abide by the law and fill out Form 8300. Because once again, this is something that he pled guilty to. So what you don't want to do is to find yourself in a position where you are being carted off in handcuffs because you decided not to abide by the laws and the regulations. All right, so let's see what happened to him. All right, so it says, today, Ingo pled guilty to making a false statement to the bank. So what was the false statement? The false statement was that he lied about the purpose of his business. He said his business was for some sort of a fitness, whereas it was actually a marijuana or a cannabis business. Okay, so as part of his plea, Ingo agrees to forfeit $621,000 at sentencing. Okay, now Ingo faces up to 30 years and a potential fine of, I believe this is $1 million. All right, so is he going to get 30 years? More than likely, he's not going to get 30 years, but he faces up to 30 years. And what that tells you is, it tells you how serious of a crime this is. All right, now it said that he laundered, so according to the information, FMG, the name of his business, laundered more than $770,000 in the marijuana proceeds through the bank account during the scheme. So if he laundered this amount of money, and now he has to give up $621,000, well, that is literally most of what he made. So was it really worth it in the long run? I would say it wasn't. So run your business legitimately. If you don't know what you need to do, you want to reach out to a person like myself or a CPA in your area, or, not necessarily in your area, because nowadays as CPAs, we can work virtually, or I won't even say we can work virtually. What I will say is, as service providers, we do work virtually. Okay, we work virtually. So you don't necessarily have to speak to somebody that's in your state. However, keep in mind that when you are looking for a CPA or an accountant, it's not a bad idea to search for somebody who is in your state, because they may understand your state's laws. And that's not to say that CPAs outside of your state don't understand your state laws. So really, it's up to you. So basically what I'm saying is, it's up to you. It doesn't really matter whether or not you find them in your state or out of your state. The bottom line is, find one and get advice from an accountant, get an advice from an attorney. Because you don't want to take a very happy and pleasant situation, like being able to open up a cannabis business, and ruining it by doing something silly or something illegal that can get you in trouble. All right, so that's it. And so don't forget to like and to subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this content. And I will be producing more content like this, where I take information from the real world and I somehow figure out a way to make it relatable to those of us in the cannabis space. All right, so in the description, I'm going to leave a link to the 8300, so that way you can look at the form and you can also read the requirements. And I'll also leave a link to this particular blog, so you can also read about this, and you can read exactly what you are not supposed to do. Thanks a lot, guys, and I'll see you next time.